From Cornwall to Birmingham and Johnston and Bexhill, here's Ruben Spire on the radio.
Hello to Shalaine Stebner. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for the chat with you today. So, can you tell me, how long have you been a singer-songwriter for?
How is it being a singer-songwriter?
No, how long have you been a
Oh, how long? Sorry.
singer-songwriter for?
I have been, I've sang for forever, probably since I was four. As soon as I could start yelling, I think I started singing. But songwriting was not really something that I would ever thought that I would be able to do. And not for anything other than I just wasn't confident enough in myself. So I didn't actually start seriously writing songs until 2020, when the world was doing its crazy thing, and my husband was laid off, and then it kind of just the bug kind of hit me, and I got inspired to write a song, and then it was like, okay, now the next song, okay, now the next song, okay, now the next song, and now here we are with a lot of songs.
So, what was it like going into the recording studio when you recorded your debut single?
So the recording studio was something that I always dreamed of. Even when I was little, I was like, man, I want to record songs, but I didn't ever want to record anybody else's songs. I always wanted to be able to record something that I wrote that was worth meaning. So the recording studio was dreamy when I first went in there. You know, you go and you sit in front of this big, very expensive microphone, and you go like, "Oh my gosh, like I'm going to sing into this, and hopefully whatever comes out on the other side doesn't sound like complete garbage."
So, can you tell me more about your debut single called "I Sure Do Miss You"?
Sure. So I actually wrote I Sure Do Miss You and Dirt Road Raised were both recorded at the same time, at my very first experience at the recording studio. So I Sure Do Miss You wrote about my auntie. She had passed away 9 years ago, and it was far too soon for her. She was 59, way, way, way too early. And I wanted to write a song, but I didn't want to write a song that was like super, super sad. I wanted to write a song that was just like, you know what? I just want you to know that, you know, when we're out in the earth, in the wilderness, wherever you're driving or whatever, I just want you to know that I miss you. And you know, things change, and everything changes all of the time, and that's the only thing that we can count on, is that everything changes. And so I just wanted to write a song that said, like, you know what, like everything has changed, but I just want you to know that I miss you. So that one was pretty special to me. And then Dirt Road Raised, we just re-recorded, so that's why it seems like it should have come out a lot later. But we just re-recorded it, and I got the pleasure of re-recording it with a guy down in Maine, which is quite a ways away from me. But technology is really cool that, you know, we get to talk to each other, and you're over in the UK and I'm here. So I got to re-record it, and when we recorded it first, I didn't really have a vision because I was so brand new into the recording world that it was just kind of like a whirlwind of like, okay, let's record this, okay, let's get it out. And so when I had talked to my new producer, he was like, you know what, we can make this really, really cool if you'll let me. And so I was like, oh, I don't know, it's pretty special to me. And so then I was like, okay, fine, show me what you got. And so he reproduced it and added some really cool stuff, and made it quite the song that I didn't know that it could be.
So, can you tell me more about your debut EP called "Wild Child"?
Oh yes, Wild Child. Wild Child is Wild Child is fun, because you know I think that a lot of people connect with it. Wild Child is just, you know, nobody ever fits into a mold. And I think that a lot of times when we're little, when they're saying like, okay, you need to, you need to fit in, you need to do this, you need to do that. And it's like, why do I need to do that though? Like, who am I fitting in for? And so I struggled for a very, very, very long time trying to figure out where my crazy, eccentric, random brain fit in with the rest of the world. And then it was kind of like a realization that I don't need to fit in with the world needs to fit in with me, right? And so Wild Child has really connected with a lot of different communities, just because it's just, when they hear it, they're like, yeah, we're weird, we're eccentric, we're crazy, we don't fit in, and that's okay, and I think that that's something very important that we need to remember, is that, just because you don't fit into the square doesn't mean you're supposed to fit into the square.
So, where do you get your inspiration for songwriting?
A lot of it is past experiences, but I also love talking to other people and hearing their experiences in their life as well. I have a song out. It's called "When You Were Mine," and one of my friends, her husband was killed in a horrific accident, and it was kind of like their love story, just like was to a screeching halt. And I was so inspired by it, and to write, we were in the middle of writing our love story, but he had other plans. And so I love hearing stories, whether they're happy stories, whether they're sad stories. I love talking to people, and whether it's my own experiences that I get to like infuse into their stories as well, or literally an experience that I've never had before. I do like talking to other people. I remember when I had released "When You Were Mine," somebody had asked my mom, like, did her husband die? And she was like, no, she just wrote a really good story.
So, can you tell me more about a single release called "Lose You"?
Lose You, yes. So, oh gosh, Lose You. Um, Lose You was kind of written in a spot where, you know, I was still trying to figure out who I was and who I wanted to be as a person. And Lose You was just the realization that, you have sometimes the relationships that you're in are not the ones that you're supposed to be in order to be your best self. And that is a hard realization, especially when you're in love with somebody. But sometimes you have to lose them in order to love yourself, and in order to find yourself, and to put yourself first, and to figure out who you were meant to be, in the grand scheme of the world, and how you can honor yourself and love yourself in the best of ways. Sometimes our relationships that we lean in the most are the most toxic. So that one was one where you kind of just have to, let that relationship go in order to be yourself. And it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship, but it can be a friendship as well. Or sometimes I definitely, this is not my own personal experience, but a lot of times, even our family, they sometimes are not the best for ourselves. And so I think that a lot of times, people really struggle with that separation, and that knowledge within themselves, that, sometimes you have to just take a step back and go, wait a minute, is this actually going to help me be a better person, or is this damaging me more and causing more trauma, or stuff like that. So I think that it's a really good remembering song, that, like, you are important just the way that you are. And sometimes you have to lose those relationships that you thought were so important in order to be okay.
So, can you tell me more about your second EP called "Little Bit of Life"?
Oh, yes. A little bit of life. That one was a really fun one to record. I went down, I drove for 2.5 hours with my dad, because my dad is my drummer. or was my drummer until he decided he wanted to retire. But so we drove 2.5 hours down and recorded 4 songs in a barn, in 100-year-old barn, and there were bugs and the nature everywhere, and it was probably one of the most exciting recording sessions that I'd ever had. So we were down there for 2 days, and so we recorded. Silver and Gold. And so Silver and Gold is a song that I wrote about my grandpa. And unfortunately, my grandpa passed away when I was 9, but he was very musical himself. And I never got to experience the music with him, just because I was little. And while I sang, I didn't play any instruments or anything like that. So when I got, I mean, just a couple years ago, I had decided, you know what, I want to write a song for my grandpa because I always feel like he's near me. And so I wrote Silver and Gold. And so the catch line is he had silver in his hair and gold in his heart. And so I had talked to a few people about, their experiences with their grandpa. And so I don't know about your grandpa. My grandpa smoked like chimney. So, there was always tobacco and so it was just like it was kind of writing a story where you could close your eyes and listen, and you could like feel the feels, smell the smells, experience the memories, and it kind of like it's like a time machine where it takes you back to that place wherever it may have been with your grandpa. And for when I wrote it, the first time that I played it, we were playing at a little hall, and my dad had never heard it before. And so I said, I just want you to sit back and listen to this song, and I want to play it for you. And so I played it for him. And when I turned around, he's just crying, because, it reminded him of his grandpa as well. And one of the probably the most special experiences that I've ever had so far is watching my dad become a grandpa. So I have a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old. And, my relationship with my dad when I was younger, I mean, he drove trucks, so he wasn't around a whole heck of a lot. But then when we started playing music, then we kind of formed a different relationship. And then when I had kids, that also was a different relationship. So it was so special seeing him turn into grandpa. And so while I wrote it about my grandpa, I also wrote it a little bit about him and about how he also has silver in his hair and gold in his heart.
So I know you're holding a guitar there. So what kind of guitar have you got?
So this one's a Fender. Oh, I don't know if you can see it. Can you get it? Can we get it in there? Yeah. So my dream when I was younger, when I first started playing guitar, and I'll say when I was younger, but I didn't start playing guitar till I was 22. But when I started playing guitar, my dream was always to have a white guitar, and it just stuck in my head that I needed a white guitar. And white guitars are actually quite hard to find for some silly reason. So I searched and searched, and I'd found a few, but I didn't really like. There was just something that wasn't right about them, right? And so I finally found this lovely. It's a Fender Malibu. She's flashy on stage, and it sounds great. And I love it. Every time that I've done photo shoots with my white guitar, it's like she's the center of attention. Even though it should be me, I'll let her have her moment in the spotlight.
So do you play any other musical instruments apart from the guitar?
So when I was younger, I used to bang on the drums because they were there. Because my dad was always in a band, so there was always music going on somewhere. So I loved just getting up there and banging them, and I'm sure that my mom had a headache most most days. So we played. I used to play also at our church when they finally allowed us to have drums in the church, which took a lot of convincing. But when we were finally allowed to have drums in the church, then I also played drums and sang there as well. I have a mandolin and I have a banjo, but I have not. I don't play them well at all. I have my grandpa's accordion as well, and I also do not play that well. I'm a
Plus,
collector.
your voice, that's also a musical instrument. So
Yes, yeah, absolutely. My main.
you're a main part of it all. So what is it like to record a live album?
That was so fun. So live albums are whatever happens, happens. You don't really have, there's no moment to go like, okay, hold on a sec. Let's re-record that spot because, I was a little pitchy or whatever. It's literally like, what you get is what you get, right? And I love that. It's almost like a pressure, I love that pressure that you put on yourself where it's like, okay, you got to do good because this is like a one shot, one and done. And we recorded it in a little bar out from where I grew up at. And it was so fun. We had people from the community that came out, and it was great. And I had recorded it with my friend Bob Donaldson, and he actually grew up not too far away from me as well, but 10 years prior, so he's way older than me. So I'd heard that he was going to be doing or coming back to that bar to play some music. I had shot him a message and I said, "Hey, I hear you're playing. Can I come and open for you?" And he was like, well, like this is, it was a week away. So he's like, there's no really room in the budget for you to play. So if you're okay with playing for free, then sure. And I was like, I'm fine with playing for free because I just want to get on there. And then he was like, oh yeah, by the way, we're doing a live album. So this recording will be made into an album. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. That sounds great. So it was so fun. A lot of the bantering and the back and forth stuff, gets taken out, and any of the cover songs that you play, of course, legally, there's so many legalities into putting out cover songs, and we're just wee little artists, so we didn't put out any of the cover songs, but it was so fun. And to be there and to hear the crowd, and you get some of that on some of the recordings as well, where they're cheering or whatever, or the random antics, and it was so fun. It was one of those things where you think it's supposed to be really huge pressure, and it wasn't. It was just so magical. And I do think that, if as an artist, if you cannot perform live well, and you can only do the things in the recording studio where you can kind of go back and do things, that's a problem. Because you don't necessarily have to sound like your recordings when you're playing live, but you should be able to play it well for yourself. So that was definitely a good test for myself, to make sure that I could still bang them out.
So, can you tell me more about your current single called Dirty Road Raised?
So Dirt Road Raised, yeah. So that one was the one that we re-recorded. So Dirt Road Raised was, I think that literally everybody, no matter where you were, where you lived, I think that everybody had one special dirt road that they, that they did a lot of their biddings on, and lived a lot of life on that dirt road that we probably shouldn't tell our parents about. And I wrote that song about the dirt road that I grew up on, and my parents still live down that dirt road. But it was just like that experience growing up in the middle of nowhere. There was nobody for miles around you, trees, animals, everything around. We didn't farm the land. Everybody around us farmed. So we were lucky enough to have a quarter section to just explore. And so that was really, really quite a special experience. And now that I live in a town, I want my kids to have that experience as well, and be able to just like at nighttime, look up at the sky and not have the town lights impede the stars, and to just to be able to experience the northern lights. We always get quite a good show in the wintertime, and sometimes in the summer as well, with the northern lights. And it just, those kinds of experiences, you can't pay for, right? You have to be there, you have to experience it. So that was my kind of my how I grew up, a little homage to how I was raised, and then my mad desire to have my children also get to experience something like that.
So, can you tell me more about Caden Golden? Because I know they did some PR for you.
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah, so Caden, I met Caden through the International Singer-Songwriters Association. They are an absolutely fantastic organization. It's all free to join. Anybody can join. You don't have to be a singer or a songwriter. You know, there's radio promotions, there's promoters, there's a whole slew of options that you can join with it. And so Caden, we did an interview, and then the International Singer Songwriters Association does an award show every August. And so I got to go down to the award show, and somehow, by the grace of God, I got to bring home an award for my songwriting as well. But he was at the hotel that we were staying at. And so I actually got to meet him, and then it was just like old friends. As soon as I came up to him, I was like, hi, and he was like, oh my God, Canada, and so we had a big hug, and then so then that was absolutely fantastic to meet him. And then when I hired Big Records to do my promoting, Caden was working for Big Records as well. And so then he got to do all of my release to radio. And he's such a kind soul. He's got so much talent. He just had his 20th birthday. I can't believe he's only 20. That's just bizarre to me. He's just a baby. But everything that he offers, as an artist, and just in the music business in general, not everybody can be the singer, right? There's so many different levels of jobs that need to be done, and he is one of the most amazing supportive artists for us in what we're trying to do. And he just wants you to succeed, right? He just wholeheartedly backs you with whatever and whenever. He's just one of those good ones that you don't want to keep in your back pocket. You want to keep in your front pocket, because he just is like, he's just such a cool guy. And so, just so very kind. I can't even speak enough about how amazing he is.
So, was it like being signed by Big Records?
Yeah, so that was it's been really fun. I have learned a lot. The reason that I had kind of I went looking for them, because I am one person, and there's like 1,000 things that you need to do, and I didn't know how to do them. I knew that they needed to be done, but I didn't know how to do it. And then my small, because I'm so sing book was huge. And so I wanted to find a company that had kind of the same morals as well. And so, with Big Records, they're strictly promotional. If I were to write a song and record it and release it, they don't own any of that. I still own it all, which is actually quite important in the music industry now. And you'll see there's a lot of artists that are going independent if they don't own their own music label, and that's very interesting. And I think it's just like everybody just wants to have a little bit of control over what they're doing. And yeah, so they let me control all of my stuff, and they're kind of at my beck and call to answer any of the questions that I have. And then this last weekend, I flew out to Vancouver, which is on the west coast of Canada, and we did a fundraiser for veterans, and then also the Disability Channel. So they are, I think it starts on Monday. The Invictus Games start out there, and they're being hosted in Vancouver. And so the Invictus Games is the Wounded Warrior and Veterans Olympics that Prince Harry had started. And so we were doing a fundraiser for all the veterans that out there. And then, so with the Disability Channel, they're based out of Ontario, and they train and hire, whether you're mentally or physically or whatever type of disability that you have. They will train you and then hire you in their productions team. So then you have a job, then you have a way of making your own money, then you have a purpose, then you have, a lot more to do than just, sitting at home or whatever the case may be for whatever type of person. So that is their main goal. So they are wanting to bring what they do in Ontario out to BC, and so that was our beginnings of raising some money so that we could bring that action out there as well. And then the Disability Channel also has a lot of presence in the US as well. And so they run something called Veterans House. And what they do there is, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think they can take like 12 veterans, whether they've been out of deployment for a while or just recently, and they reintegrate them into real life, because a lot of people struggle, and so that is their main goal, is to integrate you back into real life.
So, have you got any up and coming gigs in the
uh
future?
Yeah, so I mean, my summer is kind of getting a little bit crazy already. I love summers out here are so amazing. We have a lot of backyard parties, or there's bars. I've got on actually on March 28th, I'm playing at a bar called Uglies. And so it's just one town over from me, and so we're playing there, and that will be my release party for my next single, which is also coming out on March 28th. And that one is called One Dive Bar. And so One Dive Bar is, if you think about, the diviest bars that you've ever visited, the ones with carpet on the ground still and that have far too many stains on them that it should be probably just burned down. But you keep going to that one bar, and it's not for any reason other than there's that one person that just keeps drawing you back there. And even as hard as you try, you shouldn't go, but you're gonna go just to see that one person again and again and again.
So, any thoughts about touring Europe or the UK?
Oh my gosh, that would be a dream. So my kids are really little right now. Again, they're 7 and 10, and it's hard to leave them. And so the biggest thing for me is finding balance. And so as of right now, I cannot leave for longer than a few days. But hopefully, when they get a little bit older and then they don't like care about me as much and don't want to be around me as much, then I think that a bigger tour is definitely something that will be on my bucket list. That's for sure. Because I mean, I've looking at the list of places that have played my music. There's a lot of over the pond people that are support me, and that is so amazing. It's just it's bizarre to me that even like five people want to listen to my music. So the fact that there's people across on the other side of the world that also enjoy my music is it's phenomenal.
About sharing your music with other people.
Yeah, sharing my music with other people, it's amazing. It's when I got my award for songwriting. Before I got it, I didn't really think that when I wrote songs, I didn't really think that they were that good. You have your mom that's like, "Oh, it's so good, sweetheart," and my kids were like, "Yeah, we love it," and my husband is like, "Yeah, good job." But to have somebody else validate that what you're doing and what's in your heart and what you've put out there is actually good, it definitely kind of gives you a little bit more of maybe a pep in your step, and that imposter syndrome kind of quiets down for a little bit. So it is definitely special when I hear. I love hearing stories. When you play somewhere and then after you're done playing a song, somebody will come up and say like, that this specific song reminded me of whatever, whether it was good, whether it was bad, or happy, sad, whatever it was. I love hearing that. I love hearing when they tell you like why and how they connected with it, because that's what music is. It's connection.
So, finally, can you tell me this? Where can I find you on your social media?
Yeah, you betcha. So you can go on to my website. So I have my website is www.shalainestebner.com. And on there you can find the links to my Facebook and my Instagram and anywhere that you can stream music. All you got to do is just type my name in, Shalaine Stebner, and I should pop up there. And then I don't do TikTok because I don't really understand it. It's one of those things that I'll leave that to the younger generation because the making the reels and doing the silly videos and whatever. I don't quite get that. So so don't follow me on TikTok, but follow me on Instagram and Facebook.
Thank you for having chat to you today.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, you too.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.